Managing the full real estate lifecycle can be complex. From identifying and selecting new site locations, to overseeing new construction, to managing these scenarios, to making transaction management decisions. Belusernix IWMS provides cloud-based real estate lifecycle management. You can select the solution or solutions that best meet your needs, including LX contracts for lease administration and accounting, LX markets and sites for market planning and site selection, LX projects for construction project management, and LX transaction management for real estate transaction management. Interested in learning more? Fill out the form to access the Lucernix demo videos. You'll discover how Lucernix works, how your teams can benefit from powerful real estate management software, and what makes Lucernix stand out from the crowd.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Realcomm Live. We got a crazy conversation for you today. I always try to describe the episode in a word or two. Today, the word is still processing. And what I mean by that is this past week, I was at the AI EXPO in Washington, D.C., the largest, first major exhibition on AI in the United States. Was chaired or it was put on by SCSP, the Special Competitive Study Project, Eric Schmidt. And it attracted some of the biggest names in tech, the biggest names in the government, governments from around the world, in major universities who are leaning in on AI. And so what I did was I invited a small group of real estate folks, Northeast region, so it was easy to get to, who are leaning into AI. And as you know, we have an AI advisory group and different people are at different speeds. So I reached out to a few of the folks who are really leaning in. I said, hey, would you like to join me? And we spent 2 wild days running around an exhibit floor, looking at sessions. We were fairly well organized. We all had goals and objectives. And what we're going to be talking about today is what the heck did we see? And so Joe Martino, the VP of IT for Primaris REIT, was one of the folks who went with me. He flew in from Toronto. And let's bring Joe on and get this conversation started. And Joe, how are you?
I'm great, Jim. Always fun hanging out with you. So yeah, we had
pretty crazy, huh?
Days. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and as I always say to people, don't come to Realcomm and IBCon unorganized. Look at the program, look at the exhibit floor. So we had a couple calls with the team before we went, and we kind of tried to organize who wanted to see what and where was the overlap. I'd say we probably hit about 50-50 organized and 50% chaos. There was just so much to see. I mean, and so many conversations that I wanted to listen to. I was just grateful to have all you guys there.
Yeah, I think we did a great job structuring what we wanted to see. And I think a little bit of ensuing chaos is healthy once you sort of realize, the conversations that you want to follow. And I think it happened naturally, which was nice.
Right. So we walked into this exhibition. They said, I heard a lot of different numbers, but I'm going to call it about 5,000 people would be my guess. And they were from all over the world. The democracies were well represented. The UK, Australia, Canada, Taiwan, and there was no hiding it. This was a conference about maintaining technological competitiveness with most specifically China. Pretty safe to say?
Safe to say. Yep. Yeah, I think you mentioned in your intro, one of the big takeaways I think we both agree on is that you had your governments there, your policymakers, the educational institutions, you had different generations of attendees, and you had the partners, and really they were all in agreement on AI innovation and investments and moving it forward. And then obviously a big theme of that was risk and governance, but not hype, that's for sure.
Well, and when you have Eric Schmidt, probably one of the most notable business guys in American history, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Senate Majority Leader, the director on foreign affairs, or the advisor on the foreign affairs to the Biden administration, Jake Sullivan. I mean, they were just rolling these people in all day long. Every stage had senior level people all saying the same thing. This is real. It's still early. That's still a lot of unknowns. But he who wins this race will control a lot of the technology advancements for the next 50 to 100 years.
Yeah. And on that point, um, you could sense really the geopolitical influences that are driving the technology forward. And, many countries, United States, Canada, but also China, their ambitions are supported by technology. And to your point, they want to win that technology war, and maybe at costs different from other countries like Canada and the U.S.
Well,
So
and then
they need to act.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so countries like the U.S. and Canada need to act and need to push this innovation forward. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind, and that could have all kinds of downstream, impacts.
Well, if you look at history, if you look at a lot of this, the successes that I have benefited from, and your generation have benefited from, really is still coming out of the automobile industry, the aerospace industry, the space industry. Those technology that lead that we established in the 50s and the 60s have benefited us in the way in the likes of companies like Google and Meta and Microsoft and Amazon, right? And if this is truly a new chapter, then it's safe to say that the economic output from this innovation will drive countries for the next 25 to 50 years.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. I think you said it. We're still processing, and I think in general, when you look around, and we were at the show where you could see even the companies there and the governments there are still processing. They're talking about think tanks that they're still putting together, and they're talking about bills and acts that they're still looking at creating and refining. And a lot of those acts are sort of dynamic documents in flux, and I think everyone is doing it, everyone is pushing it forward, and yet these advancements that have taken place so far have been so substantial, but yet there is so much more to be taken from this and so much more to be had.
Right. And I'm not a real student of DC. I was in business, not in politics. And from the outside looking in, there was always the complaint that the politicians could not keep up with the technology, and therefore all the laws and the bills, were significantly behind the times. I got the sense that even though they don't understand it, because they're not technical people, that the average DC politician is leaning in on this.
They are.
They were everywhere in that room. I mean, whether it be a senator or a congressman or, it doesn't, I mean, they were everywhere. And to me, that means they're leaning in, trying to make sure that the laws, number one, keep this thing in check. But they were all saying something to the effect that there are going to be two different approaches to this. One is going to be authoritarian, one which privacy is not a concern, where human rights necessarily aren't a concern. And then there's going to be the Western, more democratic model that says we want to compete with AI, but it has to be within a certain framework that gives people freedom and privacy and liberty. And everybody recognizes that that's going to be a challenge a little bit because,
well, you heard Chuck Schumer say innovation must be our North Star. And, so exceedingly, I think there's a lot of ambition to push forward in innovation. And the key point I took away from some of his discussion was him mentioning how there's bipartisan, agreement on this. So when you have two sides of the government, not opposing on an issue like this, it's going somewhere.
I saw a leading Democrat on one stage and I saw a leading Republican on another. Yes, yeah, there was bipartisan consensus in this room that this is, and I also heard the phrase whole of country, right? I mean, that this is a public sector, a private sector, and academia, that this is going to require everybody's effort to make sure we marshal in this new technology in a safe, secure way, but also in a very competitive way to make sure we maintain our position globally.
All signs point to technological revolution.
Exactly. Let's pivot a little bit.
Sure.
One example before I break. So I showed you earlier, one of the things I saw, and we're going to be, going through all of these things. Our goal was to go to this event. This is the icing on the cake, the last bit of data gathering that our team is doing before the conference. We're about 5-6 weeks out. Howard still hasn't been debriefed. The programming team hasn't been debriefed from what I saw, but this was the last thing, and the timing couldn't have been better. We are coming off the most cutting edge AI conference in the United States, possibly even the world. And we're going to take the tidbits that are relevant to the real estate industry and deliver it to Realcomm and IBCon. Nowhere else in the built environment will you see this cutting edge kind of thinking, because we're not just going to the real estate industry looking for this stuff. We're going to the best of the best, the Googles, the Metas, the Microsofts. So let me just share my screen here for a second. And I want to get your opinion on this. I think you saw it as well.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
I can see it. It's up.
Okay. So my question is, or let me explain what this is. I walked up to the University of Virginia. This great young guy, he said, you interested in a demo? I said, sure. He snapped my picture, and literally within 5, 10, 15 seconds, it says, here's a guy with salt and pepper hair holding a coffee cup. It looks like he's at a conference wearing a tailored suit with an approachable smile. And I'm like, how in 15 seconds can a and this is the first inning. Okay. This is not, as you said earlier, this is the most basic LLM you're going to ever experience in your life. This stuff's only going to get better. Can you comment on this, as an example of the kind of technology that we're seeing out there?
Yeah, I think, this type of profiling on one hand is a bit scary, but on the optimist side of things, I would say there's tons of application for this kind of stuff in retail and in the built environment, just understanding the occupancy at a much deeper level. Because as you can see from your screenshot, it's really, figured out who you are based on the clothing that you're wearing and, where you're actually, where you are and what you're attending. And I think, if this was a retail application, we were talking earlier about it, you'd see, Harry Rosen saying, I need this guy to, pass by my store, send some sort of advertisement.
The fact that it made the sense, the nuance, a tailored suit. I mean, I don't wear the most expensive suits or coats, but I do spend a little bit of money to buy a nicer one. And the fact that it could distinguish between something I pulled off a low, discount rack, that was, and then the last one, the expression on the person's face seems relaxed and friendly with a slight approachable smile. I'd like to think that's the way I am, right? I always engage these guys at the booth. If that can figure that out today, what's it going to be able to figure out 12 months from now?
Yeah. And the speed at which it did it, which is also important.
They say this is slow. This is only going to get better.
Yeah. I think the applications are far reaching. And I think as an industry, we need to figure out how to utilize these technologies to benefit our buildings and benefit the tenants in our buildings and customers.
Right. Well, let's carry this conversation a little further. So pulling away from the show for a second, about a month or so ago, you and I were chatting and you talked about a retail customer service app where, you had a question at a retailer and you went and you did a test. You went the traditional route, called the number on the website and got pushed around to the point where I think you said you got a senior level executive answering the phone because nobody else did. You had a simple question about the retail outlet and you timed it and you kind of documented that experience as juxtaposed where you went to the company's website, downloaded all the public domain information, asked the same question and got the answer instantaneously. Was that an accurate description of what you described to me?
Yeah, I would say that's very accurate. We wanted to understand some of the chat, the benefits of having AI run, chat conversations at different applications across the business. And one of those could be in guest service. And so guest service teams, aren't necessarily staffed, to the need that they should be. And AI can take over some of those discussions with any of the shoppers or tenants. And so the idea was, how much better is it? Let's test this out with some A/B testing and really asking simple questions to a live agent, like where can I find the closest bathroom, or where should I park relative to me visiting this particular store within the mall? And the answers that we got back it took quite a lengthy time from the live agent, whereas from the AI agent that was just pointing to your point to public sources, website sources, and mapping, gave us an almost instant answer. Now, it was missing some nuance there, obviously, but the point wasn't about perfect accuracy and quality. It was just more about the function and the capability, which is going to improve.
So at the conference, we're going to be showing some technology. We take a picture of a person, you overlay it on a video, then you can use that as your graphical user interface to the LLM. So basically, in English, you go to a mall, there's that digital signage kiosk sitting in the middle with a static map. Well, here you are here, and you replace that with an animated live real-time attendant that's virtually or digitally generated, going back to the entire data repository of that mall or that retail outlet. And you can create, especially as the latency issues get solved, a almost seamless customer service experience.
Yeah, and that's the key point. You're talking about grounding those chatbots or LLMs with data that isn't necessarily publicly available, but would be important to maybe give to a tenant or a particular shopper or occupant going through the building.
How long before we see that in a mall?
I think you're already starting to see some property groups put these things in place. We were talking about a use case. The city of Kelowna was put in a building permit chatbot, which essentially helped to accelerate the building permit process by 20 to 30% by collecting data quickly and then being able to take that person through an application process. This was mostly on the residential side, but you already see it's there. That's my point. Like these types of conversational chatbots that can bring organizational data to the fingertips of whoever's using these chatbots, whether it's a customer, a client, or whatnot, is already happening. I think it's just more about, like you're saying, technology needs to get, we need to evolve with the technology. It is getting better. And then on top of that, I think, the deployment across different bodies or different organizations needs to happen. Well, and that's what we're trying to promote here.
And even if you take that example we just chatted about having that virtual assistant on that kiosk, then you add on some of the technology I showed where with a camera, and we got to deal with these privacy issues. Okay. But what if that agent came back and said, "Hey, Jim, or hey, sir, I noticed your jacket's a little tattered. You need a new one. There's 5 shops." I mean, is that an invasion of my privacy? I mean, even though these things are possible, it won't just be one way where you're asking the digital signage a question. The digital signage could end up asking you a question.
Yeah, I would say a lot of people would see that type of use case as a potential invasion of privacy. And you could probably imagine all the different ways that could go wrong, but hopefully it's used in positive ways that, can be done discreetly as well, through advertisements or whatnot. But I personally believe you're going to see that kind of future where they are, I think we're already being profiled outside of our photo. We're being profiled with other demographics when we log into different things and share our email address. They already know, sort of a basic demographic of you. So why not extend that to the cut of your suit or, the shape of your shoes, and direct you, to a store to pick those items up.
I think the word choice has to be integrated into the conversation, and how that technology in a public space, where do you draw the line? How are the rules written? But that's the importance of leaning into this early. And there's a lot of people still out there. Well, I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to follow. But if you follow, the only way if you decide to lean in, that's when you're going to make the mistakes. You're going to iterate, and you're going to get to that finish line faster. And I think
have to kick the tires.
I think, if you compare this to cloud, it came in the 95-ish timeframe, really started making its way into the real estate industry in the 99. We actually demoed the first cloud application at Realcomm 99, but it took 15 years for the industry to really fully embrace cloud. I don't think they're going to have the luxury this time.
Yeah, I think firstly, the luxury for sure is not there. I think competitiveness will drive a lot of organizations forward to pick up these technologies that maybe they otherwise wouldn't. And then the application of it, I think, is just going to bring vast value to the organizations. But to your point, you have to kick the tires to understand this technology as well. So like, upskilling your technology teams, upskilling your organization. The only way that's going to happen is if the organization is exposed to these types of technologies.
Well, and even trying means going to conferences and kicking the tires as well. I sat in on 3, 5, maybe 6 demos. And the minute I went to them, I go, oh my gosh, what are the implications to the built environment, right? I mean, you've got to lean into this stuff.
You have to.
And it's not just the lower level technical people. I'm talking senior level IT people, and I'm even saying CEOs, CFOs, CEO. You can't just sit in your your offices relying on certain people in your organization. I mean, this is a whole of company. The accountant, the head of accounting should go to these shows. Right. So anyway, lots to talk about, obviously. Let's take a brief break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about some of the technology we saw at AI Expo and get Joe's thoughts on that as well. Be right back.
Everything in real estate accounts payable has been automated, except invoice coding. Coding invoices for approval and payment still relies on manual data entry. It's slow, error-prone, and just not scalable. PredictAP was founded by real estate insiders to automate invoice coding. They tried everything else first, OCR, outsourcing, but every solution fell short of actual coding. PredictAP fully automates invoice coding for real estate companies. Unlike other solutions, PredictAP provides fully coded invoices ready for your existing automated AP workflows. It works with your current AP automation system, so you can keep the workflow you already trust. Your AP team can review the coded invoices, revise or accept our predictions, and send to your AP workflow with one click. Get your AP team out of the data entry business and onto higher value work. Automate invoice coding with PredictAP.
All right, let's get a little geeky for a minute. Let's talk about the hardware implications of AI, right? And we were having one earlier with Howard about the compute power required, and yes, we all know it's going to be extraordinary. But I saw a demo at Qualcomm's booth where they were talking about bringing AI to the device level, not even the edge, right? But the device level, meaning the cell phone. And they showed a demo where they had this new certification capability with a little logo in the corner. Let's say, for example, you took a photo and it said right at the hardware level, we're capturing the authenticity of this photo, the date, the time, the stamp. And then they said, okay, let's take a picture of the convention center and then let's have some fun with AI and make it snow inside the convention center, right? Well, that particular piece of hardware was now logging every iterative change to that photo in a log that you can determine when it left the realm of real and entered the realm of augmented, okay, or of altered. And to me, that made me think right away, okay, they're going to get this power to the edge device. So could it be the point where you, as a property owner, build an LLM that's so tight, so efficient that you can actually create an app that contains the LLM that you can download with X ABC retailer, and every piece of information about operating, where the bathrooms are, who the stores are now in your phone, not requiring a visit to the cloud. What do you think about from the hardware standpoint? What you picked up, if anything, from this conference?
Yeah, I think sort of talking more about what you saw there. I think Qualcomm building, edge devices, building the chips that allow edge devices to process on device, I think has, great implications, especially from a privacy perspective. We talked a lot about information going back out to the cloud when instead it could just stay at that end device. I think that has implications not only for cell phones, but probably security cameras as well.
Absolutely.
In the built environment, I think that's important. And then I think compute. So the belief is that having compute on the edge will help from a resource perspective and potentially from an energy efficiency perspective. And now this is another sort of controversial thing that we had saw there on the hardware side. We were talking with members of the team from Grok with a Q, and they were telling us that data centers are running at 100% performance or utilization typically. And when you're looking at an end device, that maybe has edge computing capabilities as it pertains to LLMs, these devices may not always be using the hardware efficiently and effectively. So they were trying to sort of calculate or do some talking around the carbon footprint of an edge device versus a data center. I think there's a lot to learn there still. That's what I took away from that.
Yep.
But in general, I would say the other hardware solutions that we had seen there were Grok, like I was just saying, and essentially they've built a language processing unit. Jonathan Ross, their CEO and founder, came from Google and developed their tensor processing unit at Google, but left there and essentially with the intention of making chips that are more efficient, both from a compute and energy perspective, as it pertains to working with LLMs than a GPU or a CPU. And they're showing 10x improvement in efficiency. And the demo that we saw, which was incredible for me, because Jonathan was having a conversation with an AI, and essentially that conversation had nothing to do with technology. It was creativity and poems and whatnot. But the conversation was so fluid, more fluid than I had ever seen, including, conversations, as you know, you can talk with ChatGPT with voice over your cell phone. But it's a little bit clunky. There's a little bit of processing. With this, Jonathan was showcasing Grok's inference capabilities and the speed to be able to process.
Wasn't the bot interrupting him?
He was interrupting the bot, and he was saying, no, you know what? Let's, shift or give me more on this particular topic. And it was instantaneous. It was like yourself and myself and you talking right now.
Right. And that's where people got, of course I want people to come to the conference, but I really want people to come to the conference this year because they don't know what they don't know. And even when you go looking for it, you still don't know, but something's going on, something's out there. And the only way you're going to figure this out is if you dig, right? And we've been digging for 6 months to bring the best we could find to the conference. And you just got to come with an open mind, but you got to be curious. You got to be hungry.
We heard the phrase, Jim, while we were there from OpenAI, who was obviously there as well. And the term that the team there used was, you're not going to get fit by reading about working out. You're going to get fit by going to the gym. So in this case, to your point, everyone in the industry needs to go to the gym and really understand and start kicking the tires again.
I couldn't say it any better. And I've seen this 3 or 4 different paradigm shifts in our industry, hardware, software, data, as it impacts all the real estate operations, from investment to management to facilities. I just hope our industry decides to accelerate their diving into these topics, because the train has left the station and there is no turning back. And I've been saying that for years, but what I saw this week in DC said this is a tipping point. It really is. So, Joe, thank you for your interest. Thank you for your time and effort and your willingness to share. Thank you for going to DC with all of us. We still have a debrief call next week to final before we close the conference programming out. But I really do appreciate your efforts, your brain, and your willingness to share with everybody. So.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jim. Like I said in the beginning, it's great to hang out with you and talk technology for sure. And along with the group that we were there, lots of insights and collaboration. So happy to do this and continue to do this. Look
awesome.
forward to
You're a leader by every definition. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring on Mr. Berger, who's back to do the news. Howard, we could have gone for hours. Just trying to
days. That's such a fascinating conversation with what you guys brought back.
But every booth, not every booth, 50% of the booths we needed to dive into, 50% of the sessions we needed to dive into. We were all scrambling around, going to different things, trying our best to capture it all. Probably going to apply AI to the program to see if it can do a better job at summarizing the event than we can. But it was well worth it for me. It shined a light on this topic in a way I hadn't seen shown. So
I can tell you've walked away with a much grander appreciation of really where this technology is and what it can do.
Well, I walked away with
I
walked away with a big, like, holy cow, this is real. But I also walked away with some strategic little demonstrations that gave me some insight into the future. And then you just believe that it's going to continue to iterate. And then, 12 months from now, it's going to be way different than it is today.
Yeah. Yep. Good. Good.
All right. Let me get out of here. Do the news. I'll be back when you're done.
Thanks, Jim. So moving on to the news, here's a couple of stories from Thursday's weekly news, morning's weekly news briefing. So first, radical building in Norway that doesn't need mechanical air conditioning, heating, or ventilation. So Snøhetta, this is a developer in Norway, and in Oslo, they ditched traditional ventilation system, opting for a 000 approach that completely eliminates the need for heating, ventilation, cooling in this multi-story mixed-use tower. This crazy, innovative passive house design uses some unique architectural features that optimize the airflow in the building. And they use sensors, they monitor temperature, CO2, oxygen levels, while outside centers track weather and wind conditions. And when needed, hatches automatically open on the opposite sides of the building to bring in fresh air. So between the building's tapered shape, radiant heating, geothermal energy, the offices don't even need ductwork and have much more spacious feel. Reduces not only the carbon footprint, but also connects folks to the outdoors, allowing occupants to really feel the natural elements. This pioneering project really sets a new standard for sustainable and comfortable office design, so check it out. Next, I love this. Engineers developed a drone that can fly forever. So engineers from the University of Southern Denmark created a vampire drone that can fly indefinitely without needing to return to the ground. So it uses a unique system, allows it to recharge its batteries by actually docking onto power lines, eliminating the need for human intervention. Now, the docking mechanism allows it to attach to power lines, but uses inductive coupling. So it's not invasive at all. They literally just sit on the line to charge its batteries. And this has the potential to revolutionize a lot of industries like power line inspection, for one, emergency response, geospatial mapping, and more. I mean, imagine what you could do with a network of autonomous drones operating 24/7. You could have real-time monitoring and maintenance of utilities, roads, rooftop construction projects, plus all the security applications. So while the technology is still in kind of its early stages, the potential is huge. Next, there was a great interview this week on process automation and AI with our old friend Niraj Patel, CIO at Greystone. So we've known Niraj for over 20 years. We kind of look at him as the sort of the godfather of process automation and AI in our industry. And in this interview, Niraj, he highlights a few key use cases he's implemented at Greystone. So starting a few years ago with AI-powered home inspections, inspectors wore headsets to record video headsets to record observations. And they used those videos to analyze and generate comprehensive reports that really reduced the cost of reporting, and they got high productivity returns from that. They're now using machine learning algorithms to analyze vast amounts of data to determine the viability of loan applications. Most of these applications and automations are saving mega hours that literally translate into millions of dollars worth of savings. So Niraj sees AI playing a crucial role in developing advanced risk assessment, underwriting tools, improving the accuracy and efficiency of loan origination, portfolio management, and which are currently very time-consuming manual processes. So at Realcomm, at the Buildings AI Symposium, and in some other venues there at Realcomm in June, come and talk with Niraj and his team about the incredible results they've achieved with RPA, machine learning, and AI. Finally, new tech, new threats, evolution of fraud. As new technologies emerge, so do opportunities for fraudsters to exploit vulnerabilities. And the truth is, fraud's really evolved significantly over the past few decades, and it's outpacing our security measures. Synthetic identities are a growing concern, with AI-powered criminals creating fake identities faster and now vastly more sophisticated than even a year ago. So how do we stay ahead of these threats? First, use advanced analytics to detect AI-generated identities and monitor for suspicious behavior patterns. Next, cross-organizational cooperation to share information and keep fake identities in check. I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but if we leverage existing resources, prioritize security, we at least have a chance to stay one step ahead. So those are just a few of this week's highlighted articles. I wish you all a great weekend, and back to you, Jim.
All right. So just a couple comments on two of your articles. The drones, right? At the AI Expo, we saw a drone that would fit in your top pocket. This was from a defense contractor, so you can only imagine how sophisticated these things are. Imagine something maybe 4 or 5 inches, long, with incredibly high resolution cameras that would fly through the air that you could barely see it. But here's the AI approach. They applied AI to this for things like running into walls, hitting ceilings. They brought a 7, 8-year-old kid who was on a field trip, happened to be at the expo, and they gave they gave her the controls of a drone in a warehouse in Irvine, California, on the other side of the country. And this little one was sitting there navigating and just driving it.
She never touched,
never hit the floor, never
before.
hit the ceiling. This thing, if it got into a dangerous situation, AI adjusted and took control to the point where a 8-year-old child could navigate. So there's good and bad, because
I mean, these things can be weaponized pretty easily. You think of drone swarms, thousands of drones, and the Chinese I think, have really
DJI is way ahead of
this. Yeah,
way ahead of this. So things that were just fiction, a couple of years ago, wait till the first drone swarm is reported attacking somebody. From the standpoint of freaking people out, I mean, I don't doubt that it's possible in the next 24 or 36 months, based on the technology I saw at that conference. If it ever got into the hands of the bad guys, they're going to use it, right?
It's in the hands. Yeah. Believe me.
Well, another session talked about how there's this standoff in Ukraine between Russia and the Ukrainians, where if you go out during daylight or nighttime, that these drones that they're both sides are deploying, within 3 minutes of hitting the street, you're going to be dead. Okay. And there was only a small period of time at dusk and dawn when the drone technology couldn't work as well, that people can freely go out on the streets. Think about that idea for a second. I mean, frightening that this stuff is so good that it identifies you as an enemy. And, 3 minutes later, you have a bullet or a bomb dropped on you.
Yeah. Yeah, it changes the whole face of conflict and warfare.
Yeah, and then on the other article, you had cyber. There was a significant number of sessions on the impact of AI on cyber, and they were demonstrating some techniques and some technologies that were just above my pay grade. But the cybersecurity is going to go to a whole nother level, both defensive and offensive.
Both ways, yeah. We're just going to have to get smart really, really fast. We need the resources. We need the brain power here in our country to really apply.
Well, one question I forgot to ask Joe was what's the message to the technical community in the built environment, and even the non-technical community? Leadership, lean in. It is no longer time to sit on the sidelines. This stuff is hard. It's confusing. It's got high impact. You've got to lean in on this stuff.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
All right. Well, great job on the news. Have a great weekend, and I'll be chatting with you soon.
Bye, all.
Okay. All right. So before I wrap and talk about next week, let's hear from our final sponsor, and I'll be right back.
SkySpark is an analytics platform that automatically analyzes data from automation systems, meters, sensors, and other smart devices in order to identify issues, faults, trends, correlations, and opportunities for operational improvements and cost reduction. SkySpark works with data of all types, whether it be live data from automation systems, smart meters, web services, or historical data from CSV files and databases. SkySpark can also be used in a wide variety of applications, including energy and resource management and reporting, monitoring-based commissioning, equipment fault detection, energy analysis, load profiling, facility benchmarking, and asset performance tracking. Visit skyfoundry.com today and start finding what matters.
All right. So first of all, thank you to Joe, to the team that went to DC this week, to go to the AI Expo to gather insight to bring to Realcomm and IBCon, and just for all those folks contributing to this AI conversation. Thanks to our sponsors, and of course, thanks to our Realcomm team who makes this happen every week. Next week, we are still working on our speaker, or our guest, I should say. It's a hot topic, and we're trying to get them confirmed. We'll know more Monday, and we'll get that news out. But leading up to the conversation, only the best and most relevant conversations are making their way onto Realcomm Live as we get ready to venture to Tampa this June for Realcomm and IBCon 2024. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great day, great weekend. Be well. See you next week.